Dear students and my teacher friends, Namaskar. I welcome you to the presentation lecture on anatomy of the small intestine. Now, as you can see on the screen, one figure that I am showing you. So, in the abdominal cavity, the small intestine is shown over here. And now we know that the small intestine is divided into three regions, that is the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. Okay, so these are the three regions or three parts of the small intestine, and this one is the title of the figure, and in this they are showing where in our abdominal cavity the small intestine is present. Now here, this one is the small table and very brief discussion regarding the function of the small intestine. Now with the help of this, you will get the idea of the functions of small intestine. But in this presentation lecture, I am not discussing this function of the small intestine because I will deliver the separate lecture for the functions of the small intestine. So here in this lecture, basically we are discussing the anatomy part of the small intestine. So now we have learned that there are three parts in the small intestine. So this is the first point of our discussion. Now, what is the role the small intestine is playing in our body? So small intestine is mainly involved in the digestion and absorption of the nutrients. So this is the function of small intestine. It is performing the digestion and absorption of the nutrients. Now moving on the second point of our discussion. Now the question arises, why the small intestine is capable of digestion and absorption. The reason is the small intestine is in the form of a long tube. So the nutrients, they are getting the enough surface to be digested and absorbed. And there are few structures that are present inside the small intestine, and these structures, they are increasing the surface area for the digestion and the absorption of the nutrients. For example, this one, as you can see, this is the lumen of small intestine, and this lumen is surrounded by, this one is the wall of the small intestine. And when we try to observe this wall, the layers of the small intestine, so we will find that in the small intestine the circular folds are present. For example, I am zooming this figure so that you can see it properly. These are the circular folds. So circular folds are there. Then the villi are there. Now as you can see, these are all the villi, okay, and many villi join together. Then the, as you can see, this the many villi join together and the circular folds are made, okay. And we are now enlarging one of the villi. For example, this part, this is villi, this is villi, this one is villi. So these are all villi, okay. And we are zooming one of the villi. So as you can see, villi is like a finger like projection. So this is also a finger like projection. Now in this villi, as you can see, these enterocyte cells are present, and on the surface of this enterocyte cell this small finger-like projection are present, and these are known as the microvilli. So in the next lecture on the small intestine, that is histology of the small intestine, we are going to discuss about all these things that are the that about the circular fold, then the villi, microvilli, brush border, everything we will discuss into the next lecture. So this was the second point of our discussion, and now moving on the third point of our discussion. Now the third point is, what is the starting point for the small intestine, from where the small intestine begins. Now the small intestine begins at the pyloric sphincter. Okay, and now we know the terminal end of the stomach, the pylorus is present, and this pylorus merge with the duodenum, or pylorus open into the duodenum, and this opening is guarded by the wall, and this wall, which is present at the terminal end of the stomach, this wall is known as the pyloric sphincter, and this opening is the pyloric orifice, and this pyloric orifice is surrounded by this wall that is known as pyloric sphincter. So we can say that now here, after the pyloric sphincter, as you can see, this duodenum is starting. Okay, so this is the first line of this point. The small intestine begins at the pyloric sphincter. Okay, then it coils through the central and inferior part of the abdominal cavity, and finally it is opening into large intestine. So in the figure I am showing you this. For example, this is this entire thing, blue color they are using for duodenum, the green color they have used for the jejunum, and the yellow color they have used for the ileum. So these are the three regions of small intestine, and in the figure you can see that in the small intestine is present in the center of the abdominal cavity, and at the same time the small intestine is also inferior into the abdominal cavity. And now this yellow color portion, which is the ileum, and you see this ileum, the terminal part of the ileum is opening into the large intestine. So this is the meaning of the third point. Okay, this is the third point. We have discussed this third point. Now moving on the fourth point of our discussion, this is something regarding with the length of the small intestine and the diameter of the small intestine. So here in this figure as well, you can observe this figure. Okay, in the same three part, duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum, and the measurement of the small intestine. So the diameter of small intestine 2.5 centimeter, that is 1 inch, and the length of the small intestine is 10 feet. That means 3 meter is the length of small intestine in a living person. Okay, the person who is alive, in that person's body, the length of small intestine is 10 feet. That means 3 meter. But in case of the cadaver, that means the dead bodies, the length of this small intestine is 21 feet, that is 6.5 meter. So now the question arises, why the cadaver are having the larger small intestine. The reason is, in the cadaver, the smooth muscle which are present in the wall of small intestine, they are not torn, or they lost their tone, or we can say the smooth muscles are in a relaxed state. And in case of living person, what happens, the smooth muscles are torn. Okay, so that's why we can say in living person the smooth muscle are somewhat constricted, and in the dead body, that are the cadaver, the smooth muscle are relaxed, so they are having the larger small intestine. So this is regarding the measurements for the small intestine. On the fifth point, the regions of small intestine. So there are three regions in the small intestine. The first region is, many a time we are pronouncing this as a duodenum, but actually it is duodenum. It is actually, we should pronounce this as duodenum, and the duodenum is the shortest region when we are comparing it with the jejunum and the ileum. Okay, so this is the shortest region of small intestine, and at the same time it is retroperitoneal. Now what is the meaning of retroperitoneal? So here, as you can see, this retroperitoneal space is the anatomical space in the abdominal cavity behind the peritoneum. So simply the meaning of this line is that the duodenum is present in the abdominal cavity behind the peritoneum. Okay, so that is the meaning of this thing, this term that this word they are using, retroperitoneal. Okay, now from where this duodenum is originating, from where this duodenum begins. So here we have already discussed this point. So this is the pyloric sphincter. After the pyloric sphincter, the duodenum starts. Okay, the shape of duodenum, as you can see, it is having, duodenum is having C shape. Okay, so duodenum is a C shape organ, and the length of the duodenum, that is 25 centimeter, 10 inch. And the duodenum, finally it joins with the jejunum. So here in the figure, as you can see, here the jejunum is shown. This is the jejunum, and this duodenum is merging with the jejunum. Okay, so this was the fifth point of our discussion. Now moving on the sixth point of our discussion. Now, what is the meaning of duodenum? So duodenum means 12, and why it is so named? Why this part of the small intestine is given the name duodenum? What is the reason? So the reason is, it is about, the duodenum is about as long as the width of 12 fingers. So width of one finger plus width of second finger plus up to 12 fingers. So when we summarize, when we sum up the width of 12 fingers, that much is the length of duodenum. Okay, so now this is the sixth point of our discussion. Now moving on the, and before we move on the 7 point, these are some good figures, so you need to go through this figure. For example, over here the duodenum is shown, then the jejunum is shown. Okay, and this, the box they are showing, okay, square box, and then they have zoomed this part. Okay, so you can go through all the names. So all the structures, all these names are important when you will be preparing the histology of small intestine, so you will require these names. Okay, I am not explaining the histological part in this lecture. In this lecture we are only discussing the anatomy of the small intestine. Now moving on the seventh point of our discussion, this point is regarding the jejunum. Okay, we should pronounce this J spelling is Jejunum, and we should pronounce jejunum. The length of jejunum 3 feet, that is 1 meter. That is the length of jejunum, and extends to the ileum. So this jejunum merge with the ileum. So I will show you in the figure. For example, here in this figure with the green color, they are showing the jejunum, and with the yellow color they are showing the ileum. So jejunum is merging with the ileum. So here you can see the jejunum merge with the ileum. So this is the regarding the jejunum. Now what is the meaning of jeju? So jejunum means empty. And why the meaning of jejunum is empty? The reason is when the person dies. Okay, so after the death, this jejunum remains empty. Okay, so that's why the meaning of this part of small intestine is, they have given the name jejunum, simply empty after the death of the person. Now moving on the eighth point of our discussion, and this is the final point of our discussion. Now here you can see the final and the longest region of small intestine, the ileum. Ileum meaning it is twisted, it is coiled portion. Okay, and the length of ileum is 6 feet 2 meter. And finally this ileum joins the large intestine. So here you can see this is the terminal portion of ileum, and this one is the large intestine. So this ileum is opening into the large intestine, but Here, one more thing is that when the ileum opens into large intestine, that opening is guarded by smooth muscle sphincter, and this smooth muscle sphincter is actually a valve, and this valve is known as iso ileocecal sphincter. Okay, once again, terminal portion of the ileum opens into large intestine, and this opening is guarded by the valve, and this valve is known as the ileocecal sphincter. So now I am showing you. Before I show you that valve, you observe this. First you observe this figure, okay, and then you observe this figure, how this ileum is opening into large intestine. Now over here this pincher is shown. For example, this part, this one is the large intestine, this one is the small intestine terminal part ileum, and this is the wall. Okay, this is the wall that we are talking about, and the name of this wall, there are many names for this single wall. This wall is known as, one name is ileocecal sphincter. Then this wall is also known as colic wall or ileal papilla, okay, or the orifice of ileal papilla. Now, first of all, the orifice means what? You see, this is the lumen of small intestine, and this lumen of small intestine is merging with the lumen of the large intestine. So this part is the opening of small intestine into large intestine, and this is known as the orifice. Okay, and on the surface, on the superior surface and on the inferior surface, these two lip-like structures are present, and these two lips are known as the ileocecal lips. So, for example, now here, this is the this one is the this entire structure is the ileocecal sphincter, but this sphincter is of a dead person, because the reason is, here they have written that, see, as seen commonly post-mortem, but in living person, so in dead person this wall look like this, and in living person the ileocecal sphincter look like this, and the name of the lip, okay, so this part, see, this one is the orifice, okay, this is the orifice, then this one right now, that region I'm showing you, this is superior, this one is superior ileocecal lip, and this part is the inferior ileocecal lips, this one. Okay, so once again, this one this one is the superior ileocecal lip, and this one is the inferior ileocecal lip. Okay, and this superior and inferior lip, and this is the orifice. Together, all the structure, they are known as the ileocecal sphincter. Okay, so here this one is the, I'm showing you the entire point. Okay, this is the point, and these are the figures. So if you have any doubt, so you can try to understand by your own. Okay, I have tried my best to explain this thing. Okay, that is regarding the sphincter. Okay, so with this we have completed this presentation lecture. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation lecture, and I also hope that this presentation lecture will be helpful in your exam preparation and in your studies. My name is Manish Kosti sir. I am from Ahmedabad, India. Bye bye. Namaste.